Hey there, welcome to episode 170 of Mike's Collection. I'm Mike, and the part of my collection that I'm going to be talking about today is Wave 2 of Super 7's G.I. Joe reaction figures. But before we get into those, I just want to quickly mention that as I record this, it is March 3rd, 2022, and I just kind of realized that my 3-year YouTube anniversary went by mid-February. I think at my first year and 2-year mark, I kind of made a little bit of a bigger deal about it on my video. So my 3 years just kind of went right by and I forgot to mention it. So anyways, I'm still doing this 3 years later. I have put out a video pretty consistently every week. When I've missed a week here or there, I sometimes will put out 2 episodes on another week. So yeah, that was kind of the goal that I wanted to do when I set out to do this. And I've been doing it. And I want to thank you guys for watching. If nobody was ever watching these things, I probably wouldn't bother doing this. But I really do enjoy making these videos and conversing with you guys. So if you enjoy them as well, please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and please comment on the videos below. That's very much appreciated. And also, just to keep you guys in the loop, I was able to monetize my YouTube channel as of this past, I think it was about mid-September that I set it up. In order to do that, you need to have a certain amount of views on your videos, a certain amount of hours watched. I think you need 1,000 subscribers. So there was a couple criteria that had to be met, and I was able to do that. The main reason I was able to do that is I'm a fan of Pacific Rim. You guys have probably seen these videos here, these posters here behind me in all my videos. One of the earliest videos I did was a review of NECA's Pacific Rim action figures, and that one video has got way more views than any of my other videos. It's got more than all my other videos combined out of 170 videos. So that one there is really keeping me afloat. So thank you to all you Pacific Rim fans for allowing me to meet the criteria to monetize my YouTube channel. So after being monetized for 4 or 5 months, I finally reached the first payment threshold, and YouTube cut me my first check a couple of weeks ago. So that was pretty cool. I got a direct deposit from YouTube. It's definitely not enough money to cover all the action figures I buy, but it's nice to get a little something. So thank you very much for everybody that's been supporting the channel, watching, commenting, subscribing. All that stuff helps. So please continue to do that. Anyway, so let's talk about reaction figures. So I've done a bunch of videos on these, so you guys are probably familiar. Reaction figures are these little 5 points of articulation figures. They're kind of modeled in the style of the old Kenner Star Wars figures from the late 70s, early 80s. So it's a very basic kind of figure. Some people really aren't into these things. I happen to really love them. Sure, I love bigger, more detailed, more articulated figures, but there's a very nostalgic charm that comes with the reaction figures. And I started out buying just a few of them here and there, but they started putting out a couple of lines that I was really interested in, such as Transformers here. So you can see I've got quite a collection of Transformers. I've got every one they've released so far, and I really enjoy that line. And so they started that a couple years ago. Just this past year, they started putting out G.I. Joe reaction figures. And this was a line that really seemed to confuse a lot of people, because Transformer fans could maybe still get into this, because it's pretty different from the Transformers that they usually have in their collections. But for the reaction figures, when it comes to G.I. Joe fans, most G.I. Joe fans prefer the 3 3/4 inch scale of the size of a normal G.I. Joe. And G.I. Joe kind of has always been considered the best of the 3 3/4 inch action figures because of all their articulation, which made them superior to a figure like, say, Star Wars. So some people just cannot wrap their heads around why anybody would want a G.I. Joe figure basically simplified to look like an old Star Wars figure. So I understand that perspective. Whatever, if these aren't for you, fine. But I think they're great. I love the articulated stuff, I love the 6-inch stuff, and I love these reaction figures. So I got all of Wave 1 in kind of a staggered way, because I pre-ordered them all from Big Bad Toy Store online, but then I found a couple of them at retail, so I bought them at retail, and I canceled my pre-orders from Big Bad. I ended up ordering some directly from Super 7. I got those, and I reviewed those first, so I didn't do a video for all of Wave 1. But when it comes to Wave 2 here, I can show you the whole thing all at once. Now, I should mention, so in all the figures from Wave 1 that I get staggered. The one figure that I haven't showed you already was Snake Eyes. So this is the Wave 1 Snake Eyes. So you can see he's in his like cartoon colors, so he's kind of blue and purple rather than the black that most people associate with Snake Eyes. But this is accurate to how he looked in the cartoon, because you couldn't really have a guy in solid black in cartoon. It just wouldn't look right. So like with a lot of my ReAction figures, they come on these great like vintage style card backs, and they have a file card on the back, which is great because that's just like the vintage G.I. Joes used to have. You don't really get that on modern G.I. Joe figures anymore. I love the little kind of cross-sell promotion on the back where you see all the other figures available. So those are the Wave 1 figures. So you see you had Snake Eyes, Quinn, Scarlet, the Green Shirt, Cobra Commander, Destro, Baroness, and the Cobra Trooper. So yeah, I've previously reviewed all those figures split up over 2 or 3 videos. The last figure that I got from that set was Snake Eyes here. So I'm not going to bother reviewing him, but here he is. He's great. They've already re-released this figure in, I think, 3 different paint schemes now. You can get one in black, you can get one in glow-in-the-dark, and you can get one in kind of this kind of turquoisey blue color. So yeah, lots of different variations of this one. So I'll probably end up with multiple figures like this in my collection. But yeah, this guy's pretty great. Comes with 2 little guns, great packaging. And so what I was starting to say earlier is, so with a lot of ReAction figures, they come in these great cards. And what I like about them is the first few ReAction figures I bought, I just kept carded and I would just pin on the wall for display. But as I got more and more and more of them, I kind of just wanted to handle them. So I started doing this thing where I sliced the bubble like so, just with a little like box cutter. And you can take the figure out, you can play with them, but you can still tuck them back in there. And he basically still looks sealed, so you can kind of display them that way. All these Transformer figures are opened up, but you can't really tell from looking at them, and they still display quite nicely on card. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, on to Wave 2. So I ordered this directly from Super 7. And so the box just arrived. And they came packaged in these 2 little smaller boxes inside. So, first we'll take a look at the cards, and then we'll open them up. So first up, we've got Lady Jaye. So Lady Jaye is a great character. She was fantastic in the old cartoon. One of my faves. So some really nice artwork there. Again, you get the file card with a shot of her right from the cartoon there. And you can see here the cross promotion on the back. So you still got the Wave 1 characters. So there's the original 4 for Joe. But they've added Duke and Bazooka. And Lady Jaye. As well as the G.I. Joe Sailor. And then for the bad guys, you still got Cobra Commander Destro. But they've added Major Bludd, Storm Shadow. And you've got these guys here, the Shocktroopers. And this other guy here is the Game Master Drone. Which I'm actually, I'm just realizing as I tell you this, I did not order the Game Master Drone. I might get him eventually, but he was not a priority for me, so I did not order him here. So I'm actually not showing you the complete Wave 2, but almost the complete Wave 2. And then they've got a couple of coming soon little explosions there, which is kind of interesting. Those coming soons, it says Cobra Leader and Commando, which would be Cobra Commander and Snake Eyes. So I'm not sure what that's all about. Maybe they're referring to the Target exclusive repaints that are available. One of them being that black Snake Eyes that I mentioned. The other one being a Cobra Commander repaint with a chrome helmet. So yeah, that's kind of interesting that they did that there. But anyway, so there's Lady Jaye in the packaging. Pretty great. Next step, from the Cobra team, we have got Storm Shadow, the Cobra Ninja. So again, some really cool artwork. I really appreciate the original artwork on these cards, although it is not as good as the artwork that came on the vintage, like 80s G.I. Joe cards that inspired these. These look like a little more simple. The artwork in the 80s was like more of a photorealistic painted artwork, and yeah, it was really great. So this stuff is cool. It's all new packaging. It's not reused, but still not quite as good as that classic stuff. So yeah, you can see the figure there. We'll take a look at him outside the packaging, but you get the file card there, a little shot from the cartoon, and the same cross promotion there So, really fun stuff. Next up, we've got Duke. So the G.I. Joe Field Commander. First Sergeant. So again, there's Duke from the cartoon. And Duke's one of those characters who I never really cared for all that much. Partly because the vintage toy just really lacked any of the personality that you saw of Duke in the cartoon. So yeah, this Duke is like really great in that it really looks like the animated Duke. You know, and we're getting him in the 3 3/4 inch scale really accurately for, I would say, the first time. They've tried to recreate that animated look, you know, in the more modern era of G.I. Joe, and they've done some pretty good jobs. But yeah, I think this is the most cartoon accurate Duke we've had. I don't know if I love that artwork there. He looks older and a little, I don't know, stiff and a little scrawny even. I was actually thinking this figure seems a little bulky for Duke. He looks a little buffer than I would expect him to look, and so it's kind of funny that the card looks a little skinnier. But anyway, cool looking figure. And then here we have Major Bludd. So this is a Cobra mercenary. This guy's one of my faves. Again, he looks a little scrawny on the artwork too. That seems to be a common theme. The figure looks kind of buff, figure looks kind of scrawny. Anyway, there's the file card. You see Major Bludd right out of the cartoon. Great stuff. Alright, on to box number 2. So, I want to start with Bazooka, because this is the last of the individual characters. Then we're going to look at the troopers. So, there's Bazooka. Now, what's cool about this figure, and what might bother some people, but that Bazooka, pretty much every version of Bazooka, you know, he wears his like football jersey. It's a red jersey. He's got a green helmet, green pants. That is the classic Bazooka. You know, when every time they redo Bazooka in later, you know, assortments, he's got that classic outfit on. So it's kind of bizarre that Super 7 would choose to start out with this winter gear Bazooka, you know, rather than the classic look. This is something that would have been cool to get maybe later down the line. But yeah, I really would have thought that they would start with, you know, the classic football jersey Bazooka. But I'm really stoked about this, because I love these classic characters and I love these like ReAction figure interpretations of them. But sometimes, like when it comes to that Storm Shadow or that Duke, I do feel like I'm buying the same character in the same outfit over and over and over again. Storm Shadow being probably one of the worst offenders. I think I probably have, you know, close to 30 Storm Shadow figures in my collection, and probably at least half of them are all wearing that exact outfit. The other half are all wearing some slight variation, but he's always pretty much wearing white. So with Bazooka here, I've never had a winter gear Bazooka, so this is very cool. I like the figure a lot, and again, some great artwork that's very different from any artwork we've seen of him before. So that's super cool. Alright, so the troopers. So in Wave 1, we got the standard Cobra blue shirt, which was, you know, that's pretty common in G.I. Joe. You get a Cobra Trooper in, you know, we've had that in every line of G.I. Joe that's ever been released. You get some variation of the Cobra Trooper. But the G.I. Joe green shirt, that was kind of unique, because we don't get a whole lot of the green shirt in past G.I. Joe waves, especially in the vintage collection. Like as a kid in the 80s, when the cartoon was airing, you would always see all these green shirt guys running around in the background. Cobra's attacking, so all the G.I. Joes scramble to get in their Sky Strikers. And you'd see all these green shirts running around. But there was never a figure of them. They didn't make the first figure of those guys until like the early 2000s. So all throughout the 80s and 90s, no green shirts. So that was pretty cool. And so what Super 7 did with those troopers in Wave 1 is they took the G.I. Joe Trooper. It's the exact same figure, but they painted him with 3 different flesh tones. So you can get basically a white guy, a black guy, and a Latino guy. I think they refer to them as pink, tan, and brown, maybe. So yeah, you can buy those 3 different colors. So it looks pretty cool. So that way, if you wanted to build an army of G.I. Joe Troopers, just like they had in the cartoon, you could have all the different color skin tones, and it kind of gives you a, you know, nice diverse army. And then with the Cobra Troopers, they actually took the same figure and released it so 3 different ways with the 3 different skin tones. But then they also did a slight sculpting change where the straps on the back was like kind of the harness Some of them have like what they call a Y back, so the straps went like this, and some of them have an H back where the strap goes like this. And so you could get the Y back trooper in all 3 skin tones and the H back trooper in all 3 skin tones. Now that seems a little extreme to me. You know, I'm all for, I bet there's a ton of fans that appreciate the 3 different skin tones, but I really find it hard to believe that there's some fan out there that was like, wouldn't buy an H back because they want the Y back or something. But maybe that's the feedback that Super 7 heard, and so they made that an option. Really cool. So with this go around, so let's start with the Cobra Shocktrooper. So this is another really cool figure because this character we have never had before. Not in any format, not in any previous toy line, not 3/4 inch, not 4 inches, not 6 inches, 12 inches, nothing. This kind of space trooper appeared in, like, I think 1 episode of the cartoon, very briefly. So it's kind of like an astronaut Cobra. And we did get action figures of kind of spacefaring Cobras in the past. Like Laser Viper. Was it Laser Viper? I can't think of who I'm thinking of. But he's got like kind of a space pack and a space helmet. So we got figures like that in the past. But yeah, we never got this guy. And so he's very cool. You see he's got this kind of off-white, kind of gray base body with all these little blue highlights, the blue helmet, the blue visor. And then he's got this kind of like laser gun. So there's the file card for the Shock Trooper, which we've never seen before. And that's the shot of him from the cartoon. You can see it's not even a great shot. His face is kind of obscured. And that's because these characters were not prominently featured. So, very cool. So then the other figure I got is still just titled Cobra Shocktrooper. He's not called Officer or anything different. The only difference really being is the color scheme. So you see he's got the blue and he's got the green. So it's pretty slight. The card art is different as well. So you see one guy's got the green, one guy's got the blue. I think the back of the packaging is the exact same. They've got the same image on the file card there. So yeah, there's no real differentiation on the packaging. So like, yeah, if you went into a store and you were flicking through these on the peg, there's nothing that would really indicate that these are 2 different figures unless you were really paying close attention and noticed the change in the color. So I got the 2 of them. There was actually a 3rd variation, which seemed kind of weird to me. I think it's the Blue Trooper. So this exact figure, except he comes with a different gun. Now I assume that's because the Blue Trooper was probably seen in the cartoon with 2 different types of guns. But again, I'm curious to see what the sales numbers would be on those if a lot of people are really buying this guy twice because they care about the different gun. I feel that if there's people out there that want to army build this guy, you would kind of expect the same trooper to have the same type of gun, and you would almost want that for consistency. The change in gun seems like an odd thing. I don't know if that will prompt a lot of people to buy the blue guy in both variations just for the gun, but what do I know? It wasn't enough to get me to buy a 3rd one of these guys. But anyway, to each their own. Now lastly, we come to the G.I. Joe Sailor. So this is the G.I. Joe troop builder for this wave. And this guy's pretty cool, and he was available in more variations than any of the other ones in the past. So we'll start with here. So this is the G.I. Joe Sailor. And this is another guy that in the cartoon, especially like when they were on the aircraft carrier and stuff, you would see these guys running around in the background, scrambling as they're getting attacked by Cobra Rattlers. And never have we had a figure of this guy in any format before. So just like the Cobra Shocktrooper, this guy is brand new. If you're a G.I. Joe fan and you want this Sailor guy, this is the figure you have to buy. So yeah, really cool. I'm really happy to finally get this guy. It wasn't a figure I really thought I ever needed, but now that I have him, I feel like I always needed him. Especially if you have the aircraft carrier. I do not. But if you have one displayed, you're going to want a bunch of these guys to put all over the thing. So, great sculpt on this guy. Great artwork. There's an image of one of the G.I. Joe sailors from the cartoon. Again, he's got a new file card. You can see here, because he's a trooper, they actually say where you can enter the name, it's blank. So as opposed to, say, a character like Bazooka here, and it says, I don't know if you can read that very well, but it says file name, and then it gives his real name, which is David Katzenbogen. But here, since this guy is not supposed to be a unique character, he's just one of many, they leave you blank. So if you wanted to put your own name on this file card and pretend that's you or something, I guess you could do that. So there we go. So this guy is the tan skinned. So this would be like my Latino guy, I guess. And he's clean shaven. Now the next guy I have here, this is the white guy. And he's got a mustache. I don't know if you can see that on there. It's kind of a blonde mustache. And you can see that on the file card too. So the file cards are very similar, except the one guy's got the little blonde mustache added on there. And I was a little concerned that when I got these that they would take this exact same figure and just like put a splotch of paint under his nose and call him mustachioed. But this actually is a different sculpt for this guy. He has a sculpted mustache that is painted. So the figures are basically the same. You can see they have the same rifle accessory, but this guy does have a sculpted mustache. Now the packaging on the back is the same. They show that same kind of generic black-haired white guy on the file card. But yeah, on the front, there's no real distinction. They don't say, you know, mustachioed serviceman or anything. It just says Navy Serviceman on every package. So again, if you were flipping through these on a peg in a Target somewhere, you might not even notice that they're different figures. So yeah, I got the two of them. And just like they've done with the other trooper types, we get another skin color variation. So here's my black guy, and you can see with him, he's got a full beard and mustache. So you can see that both on the figure and on the card art. So on the back, same thing though, same white guy on the back. So there you go. Those are my three trooper types. And what's interesting is that you could get all three skin tones with all three facial hair versions. So you can get a black guy with just a mustache or clean shaven, white guy with full beard or clean shaven, and you can get the Latino guy with a beard or with a mustache. So you can get 9 different variations of these, and they'll all be different. So that's plenty if you want to man your aircraft carrier there. And yeah, and really cool. I love that it kind of gives me a reason to buy a bunch of these, because if there was just the one figure, I'd still be kind of tempted to army build this guy. Just you could have a couple of them displayed together. So the fact that Super 7 goes that extra mile and gives you all these variations, I think that's awesome. So stock up. Anyway, so there they are inside of the packaging. Why don't we pop these guys open and take a closer look at them. So here are the sailors outside of the packaging. And I gotta tell you, once I opened them and started examining them a little more closely, I'm not 100% sure that the faces are different. So here's the clean shaven guy. Very clearly, no beard, no mustache. You know, brown eyes, brown hair. You know, pretty simple sculpt. It's got these white patches. You would almost expect there would maybe be some sort of decal or something in there, some logo. But nothing there. But anyway, so look at that face. So you can see his bottom lip well sculpted. Doesn't really have a top lip. But then when I get this guy, it's hard to tell. I'm pretty sure he's got a sculpted mustache on there. Right? I'm not crazy. He does. But the faces are just so similar otherwise. Like, did they just put a dab of paint on there and it's maybe just an optical illusion? I don't know. But otherwise, the figures are the same. You can see the difference in skin tone too. So all the tan skinned guys, I'm sure, would all have the brown hair. I'm guessing all the white guys probably all have blonde hair too, whether you get a bearded one or clean shaven or not. But that's another opportunity for them to continue to expand this line if they want to. They could release this guy with dark hair or red hair, or who knows what. They all have the same weapon. So this is the very basic G.I. Joe rifle. Pretty much all the Joes carried that in the cartoon. It was just simpler for the animators to give them all laser guns rather than all of their unique guns that the toys came with. See, now here's the bearded guy. And again, I sort of feel like there's a beard sculpted on there, but I could be wrong. I think they're different. Anyway, I don't 100% know, but they look different enough. So it's pretty amazing if that is the same head sculpt. Just painting some facial hair on does wonders, but it might be a different head sculpt. But they're all pretty similar. Anyway, from the neck down, they're all the same. No change there. So yeah, these are great figures. 5 points for articulation. There's not much reason to go into the articulation. Heads turn, arms forward and backwards, legs forward and backwards. You can probably hear these guys. They're very stiff right now. These are the first time moving. But yeah, these guys, they look great. And in case you were wondering what these guys might look like with their sailor friend Shipwreck, here they are with the original Shipwreck figure from the 80s. So size-wise, like, they're about the right height. But I wouldn't say they blend together seamlessly or anything. You can definitely tell these are from two different eras, two different timelines. But, you know, whatever. I think it would work if you wanted to populate both these figures on your flag. So there you go. That is the G.I. Joe blue shirt Navy Seamen. So here are the Cobra Shocktroopers outside of the packaging. And I gotta say, these guys are a very pleasant surprise. Like, I did think it was neat when Super 7 first announced these, that they were going to do a Cobra Trooper type from the cartoon that we never got before. There's not a whole lot of those to choose from, I don't think so. One of the ones that comes to mind are like the Cobra Divers. But yeah, these guys here, you know, it was cool to get a new Cobra Trooper, but I did think the designs were maybe a little bland. But having them in hand, I actually really like it. Like, they've got a good amount of like bulk to them. And I really like how the paint on that Cobra logo is, like, at first I didn't like how it was kind of muted and kind of left the figure looking kind of blank. But the way it's in that reflective silver paint, I actually think it's really cool. And that paint on the visor there is great too. It almost looks like it's got like static electricity effect on it there. That way that sparkly green paint reflects the light. So very cool. Like this guy a lot. So there he is with his little laser gun. If you couldn't tell from the image I posted earlier, the other gun that the other figure comes with that I don't have seems to be almost the same, just has like a scope, like a higher scope. So yeah, it seems like a really odd choice that they, you know, made a whole alternate figure just for that different gun. But yeah, these figures I believe are the exact same. I don't think there's any sculpted difference anywhere. It's just the paint from the green to the blue. Which one do I like better? I kind of like the green, I think. But both of them look really sharp. He's got that same kind of staticky effect with that sparkly paint. But yeah, just really cool. This is adds some real nice variety to my Cobra shelves that has never been there before. So this might be my favorite figure of Wave 2. So here is Lady J outside of the packaging. She looks pretty good. She looks just like how I remember Lady J from the cartoon. The original figure had a ball cap on, and she never wore the ball cap in the cartoon. She always just kind of had this windswept kind of short hair. And it's always been a struggle in all the years since, I think, for Hasbro to decide if they want to put out Lady J with a hat or without. And she's been released both ways. It was only with the latest 6-inch version of her that they actually gave her the option to have a hat or not have a hat. So I think that's the best way to go. Like, it would be kind of nice if she had an alternate head, try the hat on. But I think alternate heads kind of take away from the whole simplicity of these figures. So, yeah, her accessory here, she's got one javelin. And then she's got her backpack with all the different javelin heads. Because she has kind of these trick javelins the way Hawkeye has trick arrows. So, yeah, she looks pretty great. So here is Lady J next to the 1985 original figure. You can see there is quite a bit of difference in design, not just the ball cap, but just the look of the costume. And there was always a bit of a disconnect between the original figure and the look in the cartoon. Here is a more modern figure of Lady J, which is based on the Sunbow cartoon. And so there you see much more similarity between these two. But yes, even something as simple as this figure not having the pink painted lips kind of separates her from her look in the cartoon. I think just that little detail of the pink lips really helps to make this one look more like the cartoon version. And yeah, out of the 3 of these figures, it might seem like a little bit of blasphemy to say this is better than the original, but I think this is my favorite of these 3 anyway. Now here is Major Bludd. And like I said earlier, this guy was one of my favorites. I think he looks great. And yeah, his design from the toy wasn't maybe as drastic a departure from the figure as, say, Lady J was, but it was still different enough. So it's kind of nice to get this cartoon accurate version of him. One of the interesting things to notice is his arm here. So he's always had this kind of robotic arm, And it's always been a little bit of a mystery of, is it a mechanical arm or is it just an armored arm? On this version here, I think it looks more like an armored arm than mechanical. But who can really say? But yeah, that face sculpt and the paint job on that face with the patch and the thin little mustache, I think looks great. Yeah, this is a really cool figure. And the blue collar popping out there just really kind of helps to make the figure really pop and stand out on a shelf. I think this guy looks just awesome. Here he is next to the vintage 80s Major Bludd. And you can see the differences between the two looks. It's, he's got the same armor. He's got that, that armored arm. But color-wise, design-wise, it is quite different. Now, you might notice with both Lady J and Major Bludd, they're very wobbly looking. And that's because so many of my vintage G.I. Joes are broken or on the verge of breaking. You can see this guy basically is broken. His elastic inside that holds him together has snapped. And it's only barely holding them together right now. So it's very difficult to get these figures to stand up properly. But yeah, Major Bludd, great figure. And, I guess you can't really argue with the articulation is superior on these guys. But as far as the sculpt and the design, and these guys just look great. And if I was a kid and these figures were coming out and you asked me to choose one over the other, I really like how these guys are more reflective of the source material of the cartoon. So yeah, it would be a tough call. Just great stuff. So next up, we're going to take a look at Duke. And as you can see, he looks great. Like he leapt right off of the animation cell. I really like the sharpness of his little patch there. That stands out really nice. He's got the same gun as we saw with so many other Joes. It's the same gun that all of these, all the sailors have. So that's pretty standard. It also came with some of the figures from Wave 1. So, for example, the green shirts had that same rifle, and Snake Eyes has that same rifle as well. So, pretty standard stuff. But as I mentioned, everybody in the cartoon basically carried that rifle. So, pretty plain, simple from the back, but it just carries over that animated look, and I think it's really sharp. I think the people that rage against these figures online, which I see a lot of, really should give them a chance, because it's kind of just like a whole different thing than the vintage figures that everybody loves. Now here is Duke with his vintage counterpart. So you can see the similarities in the design, but the cartoon just made the colors so much bolder. It was a lot more primary colors, where the figures, at least in the early days of the figures, they tried to go for a little bit more of a real world look. So yeah, you can see the difference. I think the cartoon one looks really good. Here is one of the more modern Duke figures. And again, you can see here how they tried to go with the animated colors, but not super successfully. I think this is kind of a goofy Duke figure, to be honest. My favorite Duke figure is this guy here, which doesn't look anything like the Sunbow cartoon. This is based off of a cartoon that came out in the 2000s called Renegades. And yeah, I really like this look as a modern contemporary look for Duke. But as far as a classic 80s Sunbow Duke, like this is what everybody thinks of when they think of Duke. And so I think this new ReAction figure just really nails it. And he's pretty much perfect. So next up we've got Storm Shadow. So this is the sometimes Cobra, sometimes G.I. Joe Ninja. This is based off his original look from 1984 when he was fully Cobra. And yeah, it's just a very classic outfit. Again, straight out of the cartoon. His cartoon look was pretty lined up with his look in the toy and the comic books and everything like that. It's pretty hard to screw up a white ninja. So I think this guy has probably more accessories than any of the other ReAction figures. Most of them only have one accessory, a couple of them have two. But Storm Shadow here, he's got a bow, and then he's got a sword. Then he's got this backpack with some arrows in it, which is attached to the figure. I don't think that's removable. But then he had an additional sword too. So there's a pretty big space in the back there for you to put that sword. So you could probably fit both swords in there. I tried to fit the bow in there, but it did not go very far down. It was poking out quite a bit. So I think it probably looks better to put one of the extra swords in the pack there. But otherwise, he's pretty simple. He's pretty cool. If you want to see him next to his arch nemesis, there he is with Snake Eyes from Wave 1. Here he is compared to the original Storm Shadow figure. Now, this original Storm Shadow figure was once white, like these other two guys, but this is what happens over time. At least he's still in one piece, but his the whole figure has yellowed substantially, except for the tape around his wrists. So that's unfortunate. And it's the kind of thing you might not notice so much until you stick him next to another stark white figure and you see how bad it is. Anyway, the biggest difference in the design, like you'll notice the wrappings around the feet and the hands and everything, that's the same. The straps, he's got 2 throwing stars tucked into his belt there, that's all the same. But this figure, he's got like short sleeves, which is kind of weird, I guess. If I was imagining a ninja, short sleeve outfit seems a little odd. This guy here, he's got the, not quite sleeveless, but just those kind of little pointy edges on his shoulder, I guess. And I think that's more true to the look in the cartoon, and that's more true to this look here that they put on this Ultimate Storm Shadow figure from a few years back. So, yep, all very cool figures. I think if I was to pick a favorite out of this bunch, I'd have to go with this guy here. But yeah, this one is still a great design for what it is. And lastly, we have Bazooka. So I actually forgot to grab my vintage Bazooka for comparison. But as I mentioned, he would have looked quite different because the vintage one was wearing his football jersey. And this is the first ever figure of winterized Bazooka. So I think this guy's great. I'm really excited to get this kind of specific environment version of Bazooka. And I kind of hope we see more of that from the ReAction figure line. Now, the G.I. Joes didn't necessarily change their outfits a whole lot. Sometimes it was a little ridiculous. You'd see guys like Wetsuit wearing his wetsuit in the G.I. Joe headquarters, or you'd see guys like Snowjob wearing his kind of winter jacket out in the jungle. But there were times when they would change their outfits up like this. And yeah, I think it's pretty cool to get figures of them. So, yeah, great design. They could probably reuse a lot of this body for other winterized versions of G.I. Joes in the future. But yeah, I really like the head sculpt on this guy. It definitely looks like Bazooka. The helmet is right. The Bazooka is great. This is actually a kind of a more hardcore Bazooka than he ever had in the vintage toy line. He always had like a Bazooka that was about half this size. You know, the big Bazooka was carried by Zap in the vintage toy line. So yeah, this is cool that he gets such a big gun. I like all the painted detail on his backpack. So yeah, great stuff. Now, just for the sake of some comparison, I did grab my modern Bazooka since he was easier to get a hold of. And yeah, I don't know if there's much to compare here. This is a great figure, but you know what? Never loved how his mustache looked. This guy looks much more like the Bazooka that I kind of know and love from the cartoon. He was kind of portrayed as a goofball in the cartoons, kind of a dummy. I never really imagined him that way when I played with him as a kid. So I like the look on this guy's face because it's reminiscent of the cartoon look, but he's got kind of a serious expression on his face. He doesn't look like a moron. So yeah, pretty cool figure. Like this guy a lot. So that is my review of Super 7's G.I. Joe ReAction Figures Wave 2. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, again, please make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and leave me comments below. It's all very much appreciated. It helps the channel, and maybe I'll get my next paycheck a little bit sooner next time. So that's all very much appreciated. Thank you. So yeah, I'll see you soon with another video. Until then, ciao.